Perfect. I think we are live right now. We'll just wait for a couple of minutes so that we can get all the audiences in meantime. Hey, hi. Hey, hi, Kevin.
Hi
Hello,
there.
everyone.
Hi, Sidhu. Hi, everyone.
Nice, nice, nice. So we are here for a quick topic of discussion, which is around securing the cloud infrastructure from external threats. So we have Kevin Nico here, and Kevin is the CEO of the Next SOC and also Cloud Access. So we are here for discussing a lot of very good, interesting topics like external attack surface management, continuous threat exposure management, and how AI and ML are being used for a lot of advancements and monitoring security for achieving CTEM. So it's a lot of interesting stuff and cool stuff that we're going to discuss today. And first of all, thanks a lot, Kevin, for having on the webinar today, by the way.
Good. Glad to be here.
Perfect. So, yeah, I mean, to repeat the topic, right? So, the topic for today is securing cloud infrastructure from external threats. As we all know, that most of the breaches, I mean, not even most, like there is a number in the industry that's like 83% of the breaches are because of some kind of external threat and because of some kind of an external resource that is exposed to the internet. So with this, right, I would like to start with a quick kind of in the first question to you, Kevin. I mean, do you think like uh, what do you think about continuous threat exposure management, and can you please explain what's its significance in today's cybersecurity landscape?
Well, I think if I talk about Xenix for 1 minute, it kind of bring it a little bit to perspective. Xenix has been in business for 13 years as a SOC as a service. We have a platform that we've developed over the past 13 years that specifically designed. It's a purpose-built platform for uh, dealing with cybersecurity threats, incidents, managing them, remediating them. So we've got a long history in this space. And when you look at the past history, and if you go way back, when we talked about network security and firewalls and the routers, that was a different environment. And everybody thought that attacks were coming in from the outside, but in the form of trying to penetrate from the firewall and coming in. And then later on, it became, attacks from the inside. So insider threat and threat management, protecting the workstations and internal users. And now we've come full circle back, like 360 degrees, funny enough. And now we're talking about external threat management or continuous threat management. And the reason for that is it's really the nature of the business has changed. There is a need for real time monitoring and assessment of what's happening. The dynamic nature of how the assets are exposed, how the assets are created, instantiated. Now you could go to any of the clouds and just spin up a server. You can create a service, or you might be connecting to a partner who's using services. So there's a massive number of connectivity across the internet. Well, that uh, is the reason why we need external threat management, because it's no longer what it used to be, and we have to proactively manage this risk by understanding what's out there and proactively going looking for them and remediating those risks so that they don't become a big issue.
Definitely. I mean, Kevin, from what I have seen, right? So I have been in the security industry for more, at least, I mean, for a decade now, and you have been in the same industry for more than a couple of decades. So I want to hear from you, like, because from what I know, I have seen firewalls, and I have seen DMZ zones, and all this type of firewall architecture. From there we have evolved to a bit of different environment in the cloud native environments, like we have Kubernetes clusters, we have inspection VPCs. It's a bit different. So I want to understand what is before that, what is something that you have seen before the traditional firewalls, and then DMZ zones, and there is one firewall before the DMZ zone that connects to the internet, and there is one behind it. So what's even before that? I want to hear from you. What did you see before that?
Well, it was like very simple attacks that came from somebody who was trying to do a port scan and find out a open port and try to come in that way, right? That was a long time ago, and it still happens, by the way. It hasn't gone away, but the nature of attack are a lot more sophisticated now, using um, um, social reverse engineering and understanding who the players are, using the dark web to identify, potential credentials that are out there exposed, using the partners as a well publicized target attack, using the partners to come in. So when we look at how it was done before, which was kind of simple, but it was a long time ago, versus now,
Yeah,
there's a big difference. You're looking at simplicity of a simple attack and saying, okay, we've got it covered because they cannot come in because we've got a firewall, and we're going to configure our firewall to make sure that all of this is in place so that it's tight and people attackers cannot come in. That's one way of looking at it, but it's no longer that simple because your assets are no longer just behind the firewall on premise. The assets are everywhere, and they take a different shape and form. They could be servers in Azure, AWS, Google, or they could be services that are packaged in a Kubernetes running on some kind of a server somewhere, and it's just delivered as a service, and nobody
yeah,
knows what's behind it. So that is a very different environment and changing dynamically. As a matter of fact, maybe even hourly, if I may say that, very different than a
yeah,
static environment that could be behind a firewall a while back, that you could look at it and run vulnerability scan, do the test there, and come back and say, all right, you've got these vulnerabilities internally. Now, the vulnerabilities could be completely outside what's under the control of the organization, and those vulnerabilities could change constantly because of all the connectivity that's out there that's unknown to us. So the visibility and proactively managing that risk is a key component of uh,
yeah.
uh, threat management, external threat management.
Definitely. I mean, I just would like to add a couple more points to what you have told, because seeing from the world where this is just a firewall and the attacks are less, to today where we are seeing attacks on a hourly basis. So I think that's where the need for a continuous threat exposure management has grown. And I would like to just quickly give a high level introduction of what actually it is. So basically, from what we have seen, right? So organizations are trying to go ahead and understand their threats, and to understand their threats and to manage their threats efficiently. what they're doing is, first thing is they're doing kind of something, kind of a scoping kind of a step. So in the scoping step, what they're trying to do is they go ahead and try to scope what is their attack surface, what is their internal attack surface, and what's their external attack surface. So, and then they try to go ahead and leverage solutions like external attack surface management solution, which Risk Profiler is, and cloud attack surface management solutions, and SaaS security posture management solutions. So they connect all these different type of security solutions to go ahead and find out what is the actual scope. And then once this scope is created, the next is step is to go ahead and develop a process which is basically for identifying assets and their risk profiles. So automatically identifying, okay, this is an asset that we have seen. Okay, what is the risk of that asset? Is it a critical asset, or is it a low priority asset? Is it a email server, or is it just a simple static marketing site which is used for cold email prospecting these days? So these the type of things are done. And the third thing is I have seen organizations doing a lot of prioritizations kind of things, because now they have like hundreds of risks that were identified, thousands of risks. They want to prioritize what is important, what is less important, what is urgent, what is not urgent, what is the availability of compensating controls, what's the tolerance of the residual attack surface, and what's the level of risk that's posed to an organization. So with all these type of different metrics, they're trying to go ahead and prioritize the issues, and now then they're going ahead and planning to validate how these attacks might work, and how their systems might react to these attacks. And then finally they go ahead and figure out, like, okay, this is the people, this is the process, this is the technology, please go ahead and fix these risks based on the things that we have identified. And then the cycle repeats. And I think it's really amazing how this program, the continuous threat exposure management program, is being adapted by multiple organizations for a huge benefit, which is basically to reduce the risk by actively evaluating it on a continuous basis.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah. So with that, right, I would like to go ahead and start with a follow-up question kind of a thing, which is like, why do you think, Kevin, that an external attack surface management solution is critical for businesses that are seeking cyber insurance,
Yeah.
especially with the context of cloud security?
Yeah, I think if you look at cyber insurance, um, it initially there was a lot of requirements, what still is, and it's getting tougher and tougher. When you look at cyber insurance 3 years ago versus today, it has completely changed. Insurance companies very quickly realized they did not understand this domain, and they were losing money. So about 2 years ago, the premiums went through the roof. Um, from $1,500, it became $20,000. So it really has gone through a massive change. And then they started putting requirements because they wanted to make sure that the customers are protected so that they are not as much as risk. So they started by saying, okay, now you need to have MFA, you need to have endpoint protection, you need to have policies and procedures in place, you need to have patch management, and so on. And of course, as a company, Zenix has a package that delivers all of this comprehensively, so one-stop shop, and we have a cybersecurity program to address this. But what has changed? So, cyber insurance always wants to make sure that the organizations have reduced their risks by deploying the right tools, right technologies to protect themselves. We started by we just started. First question was, what does it do? What is it? Well, all the things that I just mentioned are protecting the company internally, and it protects it in case of a ransomware attack. There's a proactive response to it.
Yeah.
But it has changed now. Now you've got external attack surface, and people are waking up to the issue of, I've got issues coming up from outside the organization that I have no control over, no visibility over. Well, insurance companies want to make sure that that risk is managed and there's visibility. And of course, they reward the organizations that have these tools in place by giving it a better, lower cost annual premiums. So external attack surface is now becoming a requirement for some of the insurance companies. And if I were if I was a betting man, I would bet that it would actually be a requirement across the entire landscape very soon, because it is a real threat coming, and they would require. In fact, some of them have already requiring a continuous threat management, external threat management as a tool. So, and why is that? Well, obvious. When you have it in place, you have better visibility, you are proactive about managing that risk, and therefore the risk of the organization is less, and therefore the premiums could be less. So it's now, in my opinion, a key component for managing cyber insurance, obtaining cyber insurance, which is very difficult to do, and actually lowering the cost of the premiums, because we could have this tool in place that did not exist before.
Yeah, definitely, Kevin. And that is the exact reason, right? Even why most of the cyber insurance companies are leveraging uh, solutions like external attack surface management solutions, or else some kind of security rating solutions, to go ahead and understand what is an organization's security posture when they're looking it from an outside in kind of a perspective. So I want to ask a quick question to you, Kevin, because you have been doing cyber insurance for quite a while, and you have been using risk profiler for quite a while. How much value do you think an end user can get from using an solution that does external attack surface management, that does third party risk management, that does cloud attack surface management, and also brand rated? I mean, how much value is it for an organization like Zenec or any other customers of Zenec? I want to understand, is it a real value, or do you think like it's not much of a value? External access facility management is more than enough. What are your thoughts around it?
That's an excellent question, and I can give you empirical, values, so you could, hopefully our audience can benefit from this. Xenex now is in a position to deliver cybersecurity and cyber insurance from the top insurance companies for companies that are 50 and 100 million respectively, at, and listen to this, annual premiums of $1,250 for companies less than 50 million in revenue, and
Mhm.
double that, $2,500 for companies that are less than 100 million. That's annual premium
Yeah,
when they
yeah,
meet the cyber insurance requirements. So,
yeah,
external attack surface um, threat management, the tool allows us to show the insurance companies that we are fully protecting. And when we talk about the cost of cyber insurance and how these numbers that I gave you, how Risk Profiler together with Zenix 724 monitoring and management can reduce that cost of cyber insurance, I think
yeah,
uh, the numbers speak for themselves, right? We're not talking about tens of thousands of dollars annually anymore. In fact, I had one customer, forget about the insurance part of it because the insurance didn't get there, but they did. Uh, we did a test with one customer, and they found out that many of their assets, the web servers in the cloud, and some of the APIs that they had, they were actually had vulnerabilities, and we managed to uh, identify it for them using Risk Profiler as a tool, and they went and fixed it. So when cyber insurance came in, and they did an assessment of it, and we showed them the documents, the insurance actually went down
wow,
because we had proof that we are on top of it and we can manage the risk. So there's a pretty significant business reason. If you don't look at the technology itself, there's a pretty significant business reason to have this tool as part of the overall arsenal to protect the organization and therefore to reduce the risk of cyber insurance.
nice, nice, nice. That's a very good use case and customer story as well, Kevin. So I want to ask you a quick question around what are the types of vulnerabilities that are most common in the cloud infrastructure, and how does an external attack surface management solution can help in identifying these things.
Yeah. So again, let's go back to that example. Let me give you an example of a castle that we started talking about, right? So when the assets are inside, you don't have to worry as much about misconfiguration. Why?
Yeah,
Because supposedly attackers can get there. Well, although that has changed now.
yeah,
Now, take that concept and take it to cloud, to the cloud, infrastructure in the cloud, services in the cloud, APIs in the cloud. And you have a variety and a large number of assets that could continuously change. As we talked about earlier, these assets could come and go. You could instantiate a server and it goes in 10 minutes. Let's look at an example of year-end um, retail sales. Companies have now figured out that they could expand capacity by bringing servers as needed when needed automatically. So a server comes up because you need more capacity in December for holiday season, e-commerce sites. But when they're done, they go away. As an example, right?
yeah,
So this dynamic nature of putting assets out there. Now that's just the server side of it, but then you have applications that run in Kubernetes or other ways of deploying them that could behind them could be other applications that they're using connectivity with APIs. Well, those APIs are now exposed, right?
yeah,
So misconfiguration of these assets, not having the right, for example, patches on those, or not having the right API security in place, or not having encryption across all of these and more, cause the misconfiguration uh, causes a risk. The risk that it's very visible to hackers out there, and they can easily, um, compromise a network from outside using these misconfiguration. The second one that I want to touch on is access rights. So access controls. So when we talk about roles-based access control, granular access control, who has access to what, that becomes a big issue because if you do not have the um, um, very specific, and I would call it granular access control in place for all those assets and applications, then potentially a hacker can come in and use a not properly configured access control to get into the environment and, of course, do damage that way. And of course, as I mentioned, patching. Patching is so important. So if there are assets out there that are not patched, of course, we're doing that with patch management, and most companies have a patch management for their internal assets, right? That's a common tool right now. But we're talking external assets, what's on the internet, and how do we see those, and how do we manage those? So if they're not patched properly, and if the APIs are not secure enough, then we have exposure in that as well.
nice, nice. I want to just add a couple more points to what you have already mentioned, Kevin. So when we talk about the cloud infrastructure vulnerabilities, that are most common vulnerabilities, all with configurations, and how does an external attack surface management identifies these kind of threats? What I feel is most common vulnerabilities can be, I mean, starting with the basic thing, very, very basic thing, can be an object storage like Azure blobs, S3 buckets, which are exposed to the internet. Those are the easy, low hanging fruits to identify and catch. So, those are the solutions that can, I mean, those are the findings that we can have. On the other end, if we go ahead and dive deep a bit more, we can always see that there can be an compute instance, which there can be a server which is in a virtual private cloud, and identifying whether that individual private virtual server is exposed to the internet or not is can get sometimes complex, because when we go ahead and leverage a cloud security posture management solution, what a cloud security posture management solution does is it goes ahead and reads that this is a resource and this is a resource configuration. So in the resource configuration, it sees
Yeah.
that there is an security group attached to it with an internet 0.0.0.0.0, which is having access to the internet. However, I mean, and then it will just create a finding saying like this is an RDS database server that is exposed to the internet. This is an EC2 server that is exposed to the internet. But at the end of the day, it's missing out the context because it's not doing a proper job of going ahead and validating whether that resource is actually public or not in the first place. That's where I feel that an external attack surface management solution having the capability to integrate into the cloud environments and then going ahead and identifying all these misconfigurations and then validating it using the EASM module is what brings the value to the end users. Because today when we go ahead and log into any given cloud security platform or a cloud security solution, posture management solution, there are tens and thousands of findings, Kevin. And these tens and thousands of findings are, most of them are will be like, okay, there is an administrative port open, there is an exposed XYZ server, exposed Kubernetes cluster, exposed bucket. But at the end of the day, 80% or 70% of most of them can be like a false positives, because these cloud security posture management solutions are not going ahead and doing a good job in validating them from an outside in perspective and just creating the findings based on the resource configuration. And that's where I feel that an EASM solution can add a lot of value in terms of showing that actually exposed public resources and exactly tell the end users or organizations how those exposed cloud resource looks in a hacker lens kind of a view. So those are my 2 cents on the cloud infrastructure threats and how the EISM can complement and a cloud application security platform or a cloud native application protection platform as well. Because as of today, we have something called as cloud security posture management. We have something called as cloud security workload protection. We have cloud security entitlement protection, a lot of other things. I feel like there is a strong need also for a cloud attack surface management vertical or a module to be part of the wider cloud native application protection platform.
You know, I really like this dialogue because we get a CTO who is getting into nuts and bolts of this thing, um, and I'm hoping that the technical audience um, can appreciate the depth that you're going into to talk about some very specific examples of how where the attacks could happen from and what the vulnerabilities could be from.
And so, I mean, can you explain like what are the typical challenges that your customers or some organizations face, especially in the small and medium businesses vertical, Kevin? What are the challenges that these organizations are facing when they are talking about or when they are concerned about cloud attack surface?
I think we kind of touched on that. The first one I would say is the ever changing landscape of assets and services in the cloud, right? That's a big
Yeah.
challenge. You don't know what's happening out there. You don't know if the partner that you're connecting is safe, secure. They have the right thing, right uh, security in place. You don't
Yeah.
know the services that you're using, are they protected? The APIs that you're using, are they protected? The access controls that you have there, are they enough? Are they strong enough? Um, this combination of different asset types and the security around those asset types that are changing constantly, it's a big challenge because we are no longer looking at a static environment, and the dynamic nature of cloud infrastructure and cloud services is a big challenge and a big exposure. Um, and I think we're going back to understanding the vulnerabilities and patch management. We kind of touched on that, and I think it's important to really emphasize on that when this question comes up. Organizations are used to running a vulnerability scanning on their assets internally and typically running a pen test on externally facing IP assets, right? Well, what if those assets are somewhere else hosted by somebody else? That's the external threat. And to understand what others are doing and how they connect with your organization, that's a big challenge. So that's where external attack surface management comes in by looking at different combinations, by looking at your environment, by looking at the customer environment to see what's exposed, what not exposed, what status it's in, what security is in place. We can help resolve that. But those three buckets: the dynamic change, dynamic environment, um, uh, uh, dynamic nature of the cloud, the diverse, interconnected, even IoT devices, applications, and of course, vulnerability and keeping up with the patches. I see those three as three major issues, challenges with organizations that we can really help with, with the tools such as Risk Profiler. We could really help with that.
Awesome, awesome. So I want to ask a quick follow-up question for this one, Kevin, because you have been doing a lot of amazing things. For example, you have been helping a lot of SMBs in going ahead and helping their workload protection and making sure you have the SOC for them. You have a cloud security posture, I mean, cloud security monitoring solutions, offerings. So you have all these kind of things, right? Amazing things. So my question is, in a cloud security world, where we have cloud security posture management, cloud security workload protection, cloud security entitlement protection, and a lot of other things. Do you think external attack surface management should be part of cloud security posture management or cloud security, I mean, cloud
Absolutely.
native application protection platform, by the way?
Yeah, absolutely. When you look at how DevOps work, for example, you don't necessarily have all of the assets in the same place. You could actually have a pipe that connects the dev environment to the QC environment to the production environment, and they could be in different parts of the cloud. As a matter of fact, they don't have to be part of Azure altogether. You could have them in different places, and then you have APIs connecting to them or secured connectivity between the sites. Well, are they secure? So yes, I do believe that's a big area, and as you know, I would encourage anybody who's in DevOps to consider external attack um, surface management, the threat management coming externally as part of their overall strategy and development.
Nice, 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 nice. So the last couple of years have been heavily in AI and ML enhancements, right? We have seen a
Yeah.
lot of enhancements around generative AI and then machine intelligence. So my question is, can you point some AI and machine learning use cases in enhancing cloud security, and what are the actual challenges in implementing these technologies?
This is a big topic, and of course, the buzzwords AI and machine learning has been around, but AI and Chat GPT has opened up a world of interest, and everybody puts an AI in front of their offering. So,
Yeah.
for us as Zenex, we already have AI built in so that we could do better threat management as we collect a variety of um, uh, security uh, vectors of security from different application sources. Um, the benefit that AI brings in is that it enhances what we do. For example, us as a company, we use AI to do better threat detection, right? On the detection side of it. So in any organization, AI can provide the benefit of accelerating the way we do things. However, AI is not the answer to everything, and I think it's uh, uh, the market buzz around AI might not be as valid as the true nature of AI delivery. For example, AI could cause a lot of false positives. So you need to balance between what AI can understand or deliver versus the reality on the ground. So
Yeah.
For example, we don't rely on AI um, incident that delivers to our security analysts. We actually analyze it and make sure that it's not a false positive. I'm just using that as an example. So when it comes to security, not only we use it as a defensive tool and enhancing our environment, but keep in mind, unfortunately, the bad guys have the same tool. So we now have this, you know, battle between good guys and bad guys, that we go
Yeah.
use AI to enhance our defensive mechanism, but the attacks are going to get more sophisticated. Now, put that in an automation mode for attack and response. AI could be a very good tool for response, meaning that it detects something and and a response is done automatically. We call that autonomous response. That's built into our platform as an example. However, the attacks could be a lot more sophisticated by the bad guys too. They are already using AI to create a much more sophisticated attack pattern, understanding what's out there. Again, looking back, talking about cloud infrastructure, external attack surface, and AI could go read all of that and figure out what's the best way to attack a particular entity and organization. So, as much as we like to think that AI is going to solve everything, I don't think that's the answer. I don't think that's the reality. It's just another tool that enhances what we do. But in cybersecurity, AI does have the uh, challenge of the bad guys doing the same thing. Um, there's a you know I also would like to say that uh, AI in general, I think we've got a long way to go, and there's a lot more to be learned, a lot more to be done, and I think it's going to get better and better. But in general, I would say it's not the holy grail that everybody's talking about. Um, there's very, very scarce, good, knowledgeable resources, and as much as people talk about that they've got AI, I know for a fact because we always look for AI people as well. Good AI knowledge developers are hard to find. So that's a big challenge for the industry as a whole. So I would say um, some of the things that people have to, in general, look at on top of the AI is data security governance, identity and access management, understanding policies and procedures. These are just basics that you have to put in place, and AI is just a layer on top of that. Not a total answer to cybersecurity. I would say AI is just yet another layer to help us do what we do.
Nice. Perfect, Kevin. I mean, my 2 cents for this one is you have covered most of it. So I'll just add a couple of minor points. The first thing is it's very hard because it's very hard to go ahead and identify what are the attack paths that an hacker or an attacker can take to go ahead and compromise an cloud environment or an organization. So what are some nice use cases that I can think of is going ahead and analyzing multiple findings from an external attack surface management module and the cloud misconfigurations module, and then going ahead and combining these things and correlating them. Based on correlation, we identify, okay, the misconfiguration 1, misconfiguration 3, misconfiguration 10, can three combinedly used together by an attacker to go ahead and get access to the customer's production data in a cloud environment. Because as of today, even if we take the major cloud service providers, each and every major cloud service provider is approximately having 300 services at least. So each and every service is having 100 API calls and 20 misconfiguration checks for every cloud security management modules. So when it is like this kind of a complex, like multiple services, multiple dependencies, a lot of attack surface, it's very hard to create those attack paths. And one pretty nice use case is we can leverage ML and AI to achieve this. And the challenge for that is training the ML models. So training them and getting less false positives and less hallucinations. I mean, these type of things are some of the challenges. And also, no, not to forget, the most important thing is the developers that we need to find and hire to fix or build these solutions is goes without saying one of the very difficult thing,
Yeah.
because even we struggle a lot. So we stopped hunting at a given point of time. I stopped hunting for folks outside. We started for training the folks from the internal team.
Yeah.
And because it's easy, it's not that hard. So until unless writing hardcore models, it's hard. But building the using the existing models and training them with some custom data sets and tagging them, and that stuff
Yeah.
is easy. We don't That's when I realized a bit lately, and then we started training our internal developers on ML and AI, building those models, training those models, and deploying them. So so eventually that was the solution that we came up
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
for overcoming that challenge.
No, I agree with you. That's the best way to approach this because the models out there are actually pretty good. They're pretty solid. You just need to how to train them. So that's
Yeah.
the approach we're also taking because it's very difficult, as you said, to get those developers. But imagine if that example of Target, everybody knows about Target, so that's why I'm talking about it. Imagine if we had this tool back then. That would have
Yeah.
never happened because Target would have known that there's this particular partner, and I imagine they're connecting to thousands or maybe tens of thousands of suppliers, right, electronically. Imagine if they had the opportunity to actually, on a continuous basis, see what connectivity they have there with supply chain and what
Yeah.
weak connections there are out there that could potentially expose them. I bet with you they would have either fixed it immediately or would have disconnected that connection until it was fixed, and therefore it wouldn't have happened. There's many more examples like that, but that was well publicized. So I think that's a very good example, and at a business level, what can be done to address some significant breach like that, prevent a significant breach like that.
Perfect, perfect. I mean, we almost came to end of our session. So there are a couple of questions that we have from our audience, Kevin. So I would like you to answer the first one, which I'm bringing it up. So the question is, how does continuous threat exposure management differ from traditional threat management approaches?
Do you want to take that one since you're the expert in threat management? Although I have my own opinions as well, experience as well,
Sure,
but I'll
sure,
let you take
definitely.
that one first.
I'll take it. So, I mean, from what I have seen, right? Initially, I mean, the attack vectors are changed. The attackers, even today, if I go ahead and open up a Kubernetes cluster on a compute instance, within hours, within hours and less than within an hour sometimes, that instance is getting probed by multiple bots online, which are deployed by attackers. And if that instance is exposing an Kubernetes API to the internet without any authentication, then it's a huge problem. These bots automatically go ahead and run some additional scripts and trigger the ransomware, or else does the Bitcoin mining. It does all this kind of stuff within minutes to hours. So when attackers have grown their speed, I mean, when they have improved their speed from days to hours or minutes, it is very important for the cyber defenders to go ahead and leverage some continuous approach, not just like, and we audit, we scan it once in a week, once in a month, or once in a quarter, and then pass the compliance checks. The most important thing is like we need to go ahead and do it on a continuous basis. So, and that's where the continuous part is the key, is what I feel. And also the other part is in a traditional threat management, most of the time I have seen looking at the internal threats a lot, ignoring the outside in kind of a perspective. But when it comes to the continuous threat exposure management, the first step is the scoping step. The first step is it's more cloud native and it's more modern world focused. The first one is going ahead and using an external access management solution to go ahead and define the scope, outside scope. Then go ahead and use a SaaS security posture management solution to go ahead and identify the internal scope. And then use an inventory, asset inventory, or that kind of a solution to define what are the all the assets that you have in an organization that you would like to secure, and go to the next step. So that kind of an starting with scoping, then working on identifying the risks, going ahead and prioritizing those risks, asking people, technology, processes to fix those risks, and then again starting the same process again is what I feel that it's a bit different compared to the traditional threat management processes or approaches that were being followed till date.
I'd like to add a little bit more color to that. I think you kind of touched on the key issues there. I think the difference between the traditional approach and CTEM is that the traditional approach was focused on static environment and isolated environment, meaning your assets were behind a firewall. You had some um, externally facing IP addresses, and you would do vulnerability scanning and pen test. And if something changed within the environment, it was not as critical.
You're right.
The the CTM is focused, and one of the key words here is continuous. It's very important to understand that because of the dynamic change in the environment. Uh, so adaptability to emerging threats in the cloud in that dynamic environment is a huge difference because you have time to address the vulnerabilities inside the environment maybe once a month, right? And most people don't do it even once a month. They do it once a quarter, or based on their compliance requirements, they do it every 6 months.
Yeah.
You can't do that in the cloud. You have to continuously monitor and be able to see what's going on so that you could prevent the attackers to find that particular exposure, risk exposure, and take advantage of it. So static versus dynamic, isolated versus open to the world, and adaptability to emerging threats in real time and be able to address them in real time. I think that those are the two buckets of differences that are very major.
Yeah. And one thing which I've also liked about the CTM is the collaboration between the teams, Kevin. In a traditional threat management, the security tasks and the threat management might be a bit in a silo within a security team, whereas in a continuous threat exposure management program, it's much more communication is happening across businesses, promotes
Yeah.
collaboration across different teams, and it's a
Yeah.
bit more in alignment with the business strategies as well. So that's one thing which came up to
Very
my
true.
mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And
And the other thing
one
that
more
we
thing.
do, the other thing that we do to help with this is that at least at Xenex, what we do is that we bring it all together, right? So we do have the traditional model, which is completely appropriate, but
Yeah,
it's not comprehensive. And we bring together with our partnership with Risk Profiler, we bring in the external attack surface threat management into the fold. So what happens now? You've got a total enterprise view of security. Now, I used to talk about enterprise view security in the context of inside the organization, and we've expanded that context. That context is no longer uh,
yeah,
specific to the internal. Now, enterprise view of security extends itself into the cloud. And that's what we bring to the table by comprehensively surrounding the entire organization and understanding what's happening internally, externally. And like you said, together with partners, make sure that that collaboration is there to protect the organization.
yes, yes, definitely. I mean, one follow-up question to that is recently, right? Zenix started offering continuous threat exposure management offering for all of your customers. So I want to understand. how a solution like Risk Profiler is being leveraged by your customers to manage or achieve CTEM or continuous threat exposure management, Kevin.
Actually, in multiple ways, because the we decided to partner with Risk Profiler because the solution offered significantly more than any other tool that's out there that deals with external threat management. We have customers that really care about their brand, and if there is any brand misuse or uh, not permitted, not licensed use, or anything like that, we can detect it. It particularly as it relates to larger organizations, retail, and brand protection. The other way that we've talked to the customers that they get really excited about this, that is that API integration with the cloud technologies, because we've got a lot of customers that actually connect their application with something in the cloud. They do the
Yes.
DevOps on that, and they have no way of knowing if those applications are protected. So that's another big use of it. Um, if we have some of the customers that we have, if they need to look at their connectivity with the suppliers, that's a third use case. How can we make sure that our partners coming to us are secure? And finally, the one that's kind of common is, hey, what assets do I have in the cloud that I'm not aware of? And what exposure do I have on those assets? So that's another use case. And there are other use cases, but there are multiple of use cases that we could address. And the beauty of this is that we could actually do a scan and provide telemetry or gauges ranked and identified by criticality. So you have a score that shows very easily where you are with your external threats on different aspects of the business. And that way, with some of these use cases that I told you, you see that you're red on one, yellow on the other one, green on another one. So you know where to focus to fix that particular issue. That's how we can help the customers. Understanding the use cases, applying Risk Profiler as the tool to identify that those risks within the different categories and help them fix those issues before they become a problem,
Amazing.
of course.
Yeah. I kind of feel like I had a 3 or 4 course meal right now by hearing the good stuff that your customers and Zenek is getting out of Risk Profiler. Kevin, really happy about it, and really thanks for giving a very wonderful feedback. So with that,
No, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
definitely, definitely. And with that, I would like to lastly thank all our audience today for joining us in this amazing webinar, and hope we do a lot of much more engaging events in the near coming future. So stay tuned, guys.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so
Bye bye.
much. Bye bye.